All right, we are back live with Search for a Guru on the Search for a Guru channel, Dynasty Mir. I have my brother Awini Baba with us today, and let's get some more people in the chat room before we get started. But Awini, it's a blessing to have you back on again. You know, people they love you. In the
Yeah,
chat
I,
room.
I, I love them too. I love them too. I love all my people, and we hope we can help ourselves because we are one people, whether we realize it or not. So welcome everybody.
Absolutely. So the subject today is what are Africans learning in school? And let me start off with this. Then I'm gonna give the floor, the platform to Mr. Baba, my brother Awini Baba. What I
Yeah.
noticed when I
Mhm.
travel to Africa, certain
Mhm.
subjects like the slave
Mhm.
trade is not taught. Um,
Mhm.
the education, from what I understand or from what I gather, is very Eurocentric, like it is here in America. But it's surprising
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's Africa, but the education is still very, especially the history too, it's still very Eurocentric.
Yeah.
So to really learn
Yeah.
African history, just like here in
Mhm.
America, is something that has to be taught
Mhm.
at home. You know, which is
Mhm.
surprising because it's Africa.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I was shocked by that. So brother, go ahead and just go in on that and also
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Thank you very much. The issue of education, it's a very topical issue. It's a big issue, you see, and you know, early on, it wouldn't surprise me, the things you're saying. Even in Africa, like you say, not know about the slave trade in the nature that it took place, because modern education that we have today was brought here by the Europeans and
mm,
by the British in particular, because we ended up being English speaking. We got a lot of our curriculum from the British, and that's what informed our education. So basically, we have lost the way in terms of what education should be. If you look back at education from the perspectives of the African teachers, such as Professor Henry Clark and Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop and Dr. Theophilo Benga and all of them. Philosophy. Philosophy is the beginning of education, because philosophy seeks to answer questions that the intellect asks about the universe and what we are doing here and what we should be doing among ourselves. You see? So I want to start from the historical perspective that our ancestors defined education based on the needs they themselves at that time and what we should be doing to achieve those needs. You see? And we're not doing that now. We are following some people in that definition of what they want, and we will always be behind them in terms of what they want. What we need right now is to define, it's a philosophical question in terms of what do we want to achieve as a society. And if we define that, then we can determine what we need to be teaching our children to help us achieve that. Education is a means, it's not an end. You see, it's a tool to achieve what society wants to achieve. That's what I've been saying. So and you see, when you look at the philosophical question, right now, what sort of education should Africans be seeking? You see? And to answer that question, we have to look back at our past, because the question always demands a reflective, a retrospective view of what we have gone through as a people. It's got nothing to do with Africans and African Americans, and we are all black people. We go look, the oppression you experience in America is not the same as the oppression we experience in Africa, but it's still oppression. You see, we experience even in Ghana, where I'm based, there are different kinds of oppression or different kinds of deprivation. People are deprived of all sorts of things. So what do we want? That's the question. Look, if we do not answer the question what we want as a society, we cannot have the education we really need. Because if we ask the right question, what do we want? And the answer will be based on what we have been through, the slavery, the inequality and all of the things that people have tried to take from us. Then we will come to the point where we will be able to answer the question and say, okay, this is the kind of training or nurturing we need. You see? And we haven't come to that. Let me give you, I don't want to talk in abstract because anybody can go and read this, right? Let me talk from the Ghanaian perspective. If you come to Ghana, tribes in Ghana, you go to a Ghanaian community, and the next to me, you've been to Africa, right? You go to a
Yes.
community. You've been to Dogon country, for instance. You go to a community and people, let's say they're farmers, right? And they have a worldview. They have a cosmogony and cosmology, how the world came about and how humans came about, respectively. And they train their people, their children, to become farmers or whatever they're doing in that community, based on their understanding of the universe and where they think they're going. You see? So that's what was practiced in the African continent, or at least in Ghana, that I'm aware of. Our people, my people, for instance, they train their children to imbibe the values of the community and add to it. There was no strict adherence to that. You adhere to some basic principles, but you're not exempted from adding to knowledge. So, and add to that to enhance the community. You see? Now, when we gained independence in Ghana, from the British, we were faced with a question, and that was in the wake of the World War II and the Cold War and all of these things. What is the direction of Africa? Which direction are we headed? You see, and that direction is what informed our education under Nkrumah, and I am an Nkrumahist. Look, we love Nkrumah because Nkrumah wanted the best for Africa. He wasn't perfect or whatever, but he never stole a pesewa. His children are basic Ghanaians now. He never stole a single dollar of African money. I take my hat off to him, you see, for that. Now, Nkrumah and the first African League, they were trying to bring to us education, the kind of education we need as Africans to move Africa to where it should be, because the world is changing and we have to change with it.
Right.
You see? Yeah, right. So he tried to do that. He inherited British education. And most African countries, are like this. Like, I'll give you an example. Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, he schooled in Ghana.
Right.
A lot of African leaders at that time schooled in Ghana. Ghana had one of the best, if not the best, educational systems in Africa. You see, and a lot of people schooled in Ghana. But Nkrumah was a thinking man. He was devising an African-centered education based on African needs and what Africa wants, or where we want to go. And that process abrogated. Something happened and the man got, assassinated. And in most countries in Africa, that's what happened. Pan-African education was stifled. and it never saw the progress that it was supposed to see. So you will find a contradiction. Most of like my father's generation, these people, they had some taste of Pan-African education. So like, I would say your father's generation in Africa, assuming you were in Africa. So they had some sort of Pan-African education or a taste of it. And they they weren't that corrupt. I'll tell you. Look, at that time, this issue of people having private jets and so on, it never existed. You see, because they had the love of the continent at heart. And they weren't that greedy as we some of our leaders are now. You see, so it goes to address that fact. What sort of education is Africa dealing with today? I'll fast forward to Ghana today. We don't have a pan-African education. I'm sorry to say this, but we don't. We Let me give you a breakdown of the subjects you learn when you go to school in Ghana.
Go ahead.
You go through KG, which is kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on how good you are, kindergarten 1 and 2, and so on, and then you move to primary school. In primary school, you learn basic things, drawing and how to write. So basically, they teach you how to write and read, and you have some subjects: agricultural studies, uh, general science. I'm talking of basic education in Ghana: agriculture, general science, social studies, technical skills. You know, that's Ghanaian language. You're supposed to learn a Ghanaian language in the basic school system. But the problem with these subjects is that the curriculum is so whitewashed. I remember when I was in school, and most of my colleagues, most people in Ghana at my age will vouch for this. We never learned anything positive in an uplifting manner about Africa.
True.
This is the problem. Yeah, we never did.
And
We learned a few things.
and the thing is, it's surprising because it's the same way over here. I mean, all we're taught is Africa is
Mhm.
a dark continent. You had slavery, and then Martin Luther King came along. That's basically the gist when I was growing up
Yeah,
of history as far as Black people worldwide. So I'm surprised in a place that's African that they don't teach African history.
no, yes, it's kind of surprising, but you should ask the question: who is controlling Africa today? The first crop of African leaders were eliminated. The West eliminated our African leaders who wanted to help liberate Africa, and they put in place sellouts, sellout African leaders, and they promoted this neo-colonial educational system. We don't learn. For instance, I went to school all my life. I had to finish school and learn on my own that Africa had a writing system before the Europeans came to Africa. This is a tragedy.
Right.
You see, it's a serious tragedy that shouldn't occur. So it appears to me that some people have hijacked our educational system because education is the most powerful that we have. Every people on the continent or in the world are training their people, educating their people. Let me ask a question. Slavery and racism and all of this that you folks experience in America, it hasn't ended, has it? Hello?
Yeah, I'm right here. I think I had lost you for a second, but you're back now.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah. We hear you. We hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah. We can hear you. We can hear you. Awini, I can hear you. Hey, people in the chat room, can you hear Awini? Can you at least hear me? Oh, the brother dropped off. Damn, he'll come back. Yeah, so the brother he'll come back shortly. Let me Okay, you can. Okay. Let me get him back on. It's just always, oh, here we go. He's back. He's back. Awini. Hello? Awini. Awini, we hear you. I mean, can you hear me? Hold on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, people hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish where you left off.
Yeah.
We lost you. It's your mic. We lost you. It's your mic. We can't hear you. It's your mic. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, I lost him. All right. Okay, I'll tell him to turn his camera off. There he goes. Oh, I lost him again. Thing is, every time we get into a deep conversation and he gets flowing, we always lose him due to the Wi-Fi. Okay, he's back. Oh,
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a break in the communication. So what we need to, we're all trying to get out of this quagmire and so on. And I think we're kind of jumping the gun. You have a kid, right?
Yes, I have a son.
Yeah. What we need as African people to be doing right now is to have within our societies, the system is not teaching us pro-African or pan-African things. What we need is schools like what Dr. Umar Johnson. You see, some people have problems with Umar Johnson. I don't want to get into that. People are, accusing him of, taking money and not doing what he's supposed to do. But at least the idea of having a private school system where our children go and they learn not only what they need to learn in America to survive in America, they learn their history too. And they learn what they're supposed to know as Africans to liberate themselves. That's what we need right now. You see, we need an educational system that defies all the odds. We don't want to learn with Europeans per se, because Europeans or Chinese or Japanese, we're not at the same stage as them. We need to learn African things that Africa or the African community needs in order to liberate itself. So the other day I chipped it in, I was talking about an elite group of educated Africans worldwide that come together and bring their skills together and create a platform for dialogue and solutions to African problems. That's what we need. And if you read about W.E.B. Du Bois, this is what he set out to do. You see? Yeah, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say O'Shea is O'Shea is in the chat room. O'Shea, do you wanna hop on, O'Shea?
Yeah, he can hop on.
Let me know, O'Shea, if you wanna hop on. But go ahead, Awini.
You see, yeah. So what W.E.B. Du Bois and others were trying to do, most of us, those of us who were fortunate to have an education, a formal education, we have two responsibilities. We have family responsibilities, like you have a son, you have a responsibility to take care of him and to take care of your wife and all of that. And you have a community responsibility, which is to the Black community in America in particular, you see. But we in Africa also have the same responsibility. It's not enough for us to say, we have been to school and we're making a salary now, everything is okay, and we can focus on ourselves. It's not African to say that. African people who have special skills need to come together and basically bring their skills on board to tackle African problems worldwide. And we need to create a platform to do this. And there is no serious objection to this, and nobody can prevent us from doing it. It is our right to come together to help ourselves. And we must do it. And once we do that, we can begin to address the issue of education head on. We need to address education. Look, for our kids, our children to go to school and not learn anything about themselves, they are being brainwashed. They are being brainwashed to hate themselves. If you go to school, and I went through it, I had colleagues tell me in Ghana and Africa that, Africans never did anything, and that, well, we it's inferior, and we came here to help other people to develop. This is a very sad position. And even if it were true, I would concur, but it's not true. And most of us, yourself and O'Shea and all of it, we know this not to be true. So we need to bring it to the fore. If Dr. Umar Johnson is doing something in America to address this problem, I expect the African community to help him to address it. You see, we need to have our own school system to train our own people. Even if they go to the normal school, public schools, when they come home, they need a little bit. Even if it's 1 hour, it's enough to bring them back, you see, to who they are and what they need to be doing. You see? So just to wrap it up in a way, this is an area that needs a lot of professors who are educationists. And I hope when your show goes out, it'll ignite the interest in professors and all of these people who know about education. Should be determined by us, nobody else. Right now, we are not determining what our education should be about. We have not addressed the philosophical question of what sort of education we need based on what society we want to build. You see, and this is a problem that needs to be addressed. If we don't address it, we are going to be churning our people, our young people, for other people to employ them. And we are not going to see the sort of development that we want as African people across the globe. We are not going to realize it. I'm sorry to say, but we're not going to realize that economic development that we want. We need more people in, let's say, economics. We need people in the crafts of building and technology and all of that. We need our people to learn this from an African perspective based on the resources we have in Africa, for instance, and how we can utilize these resources. We have a lot of clay here. People don't want to take that and build, good enough buildings, that'll be cheaper. Why is that? It's because people who have been to school have been taught to think like robots. We don't want robots. We want individual thinkers, innovative thinkers. And if we don't have the right kind of education as Africans, we are never, ever going to come out of this economic oppression.
No, you're right.
So, yeah.
Let me ask you this one, Winnie. How do you feel? And I think the issue here in America is there's no balance. We put such an emphasis on entertainment.
Yeah.
Not on, like you said, STEM, being doctors, lawyers, IT, we put such an emphasis on sports, being a rapper, entertainer. How do you feel about that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I feel some people are out to mislead us. I feel that when Africa or African people were coming out of the oppression, political oppression, the enemy devised a new kind of oppression to ensure that we do not get the skills that we need to get away their power from them. And when they created this, I'm not dissing sports people or African people who are into sports or entertainment, but I'm saying that it doesn't make sense that African people and African Americans should be only entertainers and sports people. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at the broad spectrum of people or skills that are needed in a society, even in a traditional society in Africa. My family, for instance, we are drummers or entertainers, and we are blacksmiths. And we also engage in farming. This is traditionally. These are three functions that our people are supposed to perform and perform them well. You see? So when you look at the spectrum of African professions or professions that a society needs to thrive, it doesn't make sense that most of our people are brainwashed to be to want to become like Michael Johnson and Michael Jordan and all of these Jay-Z and all of these entertainers. I'm not saying there's something wrong with them. I'm just saying we cannot all be like them. We all came with different skills and gifts, and we need to develop these skills. Some of us need to be, entertainers and sports people, but a lot of us need to go into, agriculture. You see, what happened to the Tuskegee concept? The
Yes.
great school of Tuskegee and the people that were being trained there. What happened to the Benjamin Bernakers and all of these? Look, when I argue for things that black people have done after colonialism and slavery, I look to America. I portray, African Americans who have invented things. I know that the robot, what we call the traffic light, was invented by an African called Garrett Morgan.
Yeah.
I you know, I, we in Africa, those of us looking for black and Professor Clark, I'm a follower of Professor Clark. Professor Clark showed us, and he made it clear that history is not everything, but history tells us it is useful to us in the sense that it tells us our political time of the day. It tells us where we have been or what we have been and where we need to be headed and what we need to be doing. So we in Africa who are Pan-Africanists, we take our hats off to our African American people who were oppressed and they did such great things. The gas mask was invented by an African American.
Yeah.
The traffic signal. Charles Jew plasma. We are able to donate blood today because of Charles Jew.
Yeah.
You see? And a host of others. Why is it that the African people of this generation is not only, in America, but of this generation are all want to be entertainers and sports people? There's something wrong with
Because
that.
I think the issue is they see that's where the money's at.
No,
That's what they see. But
look,
that's what they see.
exactly. Look, some people have portrayed there's a psychological game to show black people what they need to be doing. And because we as black people have not, and it goes back to the educational question, we have not defined what we need to be doing. And because we have not done this, some people have come in and they have picked up sports people and entertainers, and they have made them our core role models. And our children want to be these people. And we need to reverse that through education and through counter, propaganda. Believe it or not, we need counter propaganda. We need, if I watch a movie, look, I'm going to bet you how many African Hollywood movies do we watch that uplift black people? We get a role in there, but it doesn't go to speak to what we need to be doing. But you watch a Chinese movie, and they're uplifting the people. They are the heroes in their movies. Africa right now does not have house that reports for Africa and does all the work. This is a gap that the oppressor or our enemies are going to fill. They are going to come in and they are going to report on African issues, and they're going to do it in a twisted manner that suits their interests. Why should we have non-Africans reporting, giving news about Africa? Why? What is happening to the Africans? Why don't we have a big media corporation in Africa or in America speaking for the black community? We don't have that. We have WLIB, Gary Bird and all of them. But how big are they in the grand scheme of things? Important. The kinds of information that are getting into the minds of our children and our people today, they are not coming from the Africans. They are coming from people who want to keep Africans down so they can continue to benefit from our labor and our resources, excluding labor. That's the problem. And we need, I had this argument with some African Americans way back when, people want their kids to be basketball players. I said, why would you limit your child to become a basketball player? What if he doesn't get to be a superstar, in basketball? What happens to his career? Why not cast the net wide and broaden the chances for this child? And people have problems with that. People say, but there's money there. And I say, there's money everywhere.
Correct.
Bill Gates is not a basketball player.
He's not.
So how you can count a lot of rich people in the world who don't do sports or entertainment. So why are we focusing only on these things? So I feel that there's a deliberate attempt to, again, stifle African development in terms of our mental development, to say that this is what we can be. This is the only thing that we can be, is entertainers and sports people. Entertainers and sports people. This is what's going on.
Somebody in the chat room asked, "Who are you familiar with Safo Kantaka?"
Safo Kantaka, yes. This is another brilliant mind in Ghana, and again, can you believe that Osafo Kantaka does not have a formal education? He doesn't. He's a preacher, by the way.
Okay.
I don't know, he's a pastor, but what I can decipher from the man is he has a brilliant mind, and he is building his own cars.
Wow. Oh, the Kataka cars.
Yeah.
The trucks.
That's him.
Yeah, okay.
And I support this. His daughter is a politician, by the way, and she never went to a public school. She was homeschooled, and she's a brilliant lawyer.
Well, you got not to cut you off, Awini. You have to understand, like, our brightest minds, especially in the black community, don't have formal education.
Exactly. We don't need it. We don't need that. I'm saying that. I'm not saying it's unnecessary per se, but if you're brilliant, you're brilliant. If you have the formal education, it can help you. But if the formal education shuts down your intellect or your brilliance, then you're doomed. And that's why we need to address the educational problem. We need to nurture. Our education needs to nurture. We don't need to indoctrinate and tell people this is the only way of doing this and that and that. You see? So yeah, Osafo Kantanka is a. I'm a fan of him, by the way. I'm a fan because he's the only man. We have a lot of professors in the universities. They can build their own cars. He's the only man in Ghana right now who doesn't have a formal education, who is building cars, and he's doing a host of other things.
Mm.
He, electronics and all of these things. He is doing them. And what is it's annoying about Africa is that our leaders, instead of picking people and putting them under Osafo Kantanka
Mm-hmm.
to nurture them, they're not doing that. So when the man dies, he dies with his knowledge. You see,
Yeah.
it's not passed on. And this is the tragedy of Africa. We have lost a lot of knowledge because a lot of the knowledge is not found in the schools. Bear in mind, in ancient Egypt and other places where education started, we didn't have such glamorous schools and big buildings. Education takes place when you learn on your own. That is true education. You learn more when you do it on your own. And all you need is a teacher, a guide to guide you. That's all we need.
Mm.
So we're building all these edifices and big schools, and we're not teaching anything there. We're just brainwashing our children to depend on other people.
No, absolutely right. Let
You
me
see?
ask you this, Winnie. How do you feel about, we talk about African ingenuity. You brought up to Kataka. How do you feel
Mhm.
about Ghana launching the satellite into outer space?
Yeah, we launched that right in from the All African University in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. I feel that it didn't get the publicity it needed. You see,
Mm-hmm.
that is the tragedy of Africa is a lot of emphasis is not going into the liberation of the African mind. If I grow up knowing that my ancestors were useless people just hanging around in the bush and didn't know their left from their right, I'll feel inferior. But if I grow up knowing that my ancestors built the pyramids, which they did,
Right.
and had writing systems before anybody else did, then I will feel that something great about me because I come from my ancestors. I feel that Africa, and you heard of this Dr. Mensah, who invented. He has a lot of patents in nanotechnology. Who is also a
Okay.
Ghanaian. I feel that a lot of our brains are wasting in Africa. Not only in Africa, but also in in America. We need to create a platform where we showcase African ingenuity. It
Yes, absolutely.
didn't get enough publicity as it deserved. We didn't get it. I learned of it. I normally read a lot of news about Ghana and everywhere, basically online. So I heard of it, but I didn't hear when I went out to the Ghanaian communities or the streets. I'm a street person. I like being out in the streets. I like talking with the ordinary people. I
Mm.
didn't hear people express interest or pride because they never heard of it. This is the problem. We do not sell ourselves the way we should.
Mm.
Look, when I tell people that Africa is writing systems, it's not only the hieroglyphics. We had the Meroitic script. We have the Gay script we use in Ethiopia to write Amharic and other languages over there. We have the Nsibidi script from Nigeria. We have the Vi script from Liberia and Sierra Leone. Uh, when I tell people this, they're shocked. You see, so we need the media, because mass media is the strongest tool. We are using it now, myself and you, to reach out to each other.
Right.
It is the strongest tool that we can make use of today to get our message across. And our governments, and I keep saying this, our governments have sold out.
Of course.
They have no genuine interest in liberating Africa. They are living like kings. They have access to everything they need. They don't pay for anything. They have, they live off of us. They have all the money they need, and their great grandchildren will never want for anything as far as money is concerned, because they loot what belongs to the community and keep it for themselves. So these people are also our enemies. I'm sorry to say this, but Professor Clark also said this. If you listen to the debate between Professor Clark and Dr. Bernal and Lefkowitz, and other, he made it clear that African people need to learn something, that sometimes white wannabes are more dangerous than whites.
But say that, repeat that one more time.
Professor Clark said that sometimes white wannabes are more dangerous than whites. So some of our people who are benefiting from the status quo, from the way things are today, it doesn't behoove them to bring change, because if they bring change, they're going to lose their privilege. You see? So we need to understand that we need the youth. We need to turn our backs on these coons. I call them coons, and I don't apologize for this. You see? Because they know what they're doing. They know it's wrong, but they don't care. And I have no respect for them. These are the sellouts. They are the reason. And their ancestors, the sellouts, the Uncle Toms, these are the people who sold us out long ago, thousands of years. This has been going on with the invasion of Africa, Asia. This has been going on for a long time. We need to set these people out. They are sellouts. They're not interested. Some of them, when you talk to them about African liberation, they don't want to hear it. I'm sorry to say this. But our people in Africa, and some of them in America, they don't want to hear about Africans things, or managing power, which is the basic thing that people have denied us of. How to manage power, and we need that power. If we need power to manage our own resources for our own benefit. If we don't have that, we have nothing. Anybody who offers us an alternative is a sellout. We don't want that. We want to own our resources because they belong to us. Why is it that we should possess resources and other people benefit from those resources other than us and give a chicken change from that? It's annoying. And when we address this, the sellouts in government right now, they don't want to hear it.
But they know what's going on, and they're content with it, and that's the issue.
Yeah, and so ultimately, this comes down to fighting our own people. That's what's going to happen. We are going to have to fight our own people because our own people are fighting against us today. Because you cannot tell me that the Europeans are not in Ghana anymore, but they control Ghana.
Right.
They're doing it through our own people. They're using our own people to control us. And it's going to come to a time we're going to have to identify those people among us who are sellouts and deal with them. We can't tolerate that. A few people in our community do not have the right to sell us out. No. We need to wake up and say that we can't do this anymore. And the only way we can achieve this is to have the right kind of education. That's why the education question is so important. If we were teaching our people about our history, for instance, and teaching them what their history teaches them and what they need to be doing now, we wouldn't be having this debate, this discussion. Our people would have been awakened by now. We need that, you see, which is why platforms like this are very important. I've had Ghanaians reach out to me, you know, through you, which is ironic, right? I'm living in Ghana, and I do shows with you, and Ghanaian people watch the shows, and they reach out to me and say, they want us to get together and see what we can do.
That's good.
This is
I'm
progress.
glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, this is progress, and we need more of that. We need to come together, and we need to put aside our selfish interests, and we need to work together. And we have enough professionals
We do.
to do this. We do. We have all of the categories. We have people in NASA, you know. We have people in all of the various fields and crafts. Why can't we bring them together on a platform to discuss what we can put together to train the African child to liberate us?
Mm.
We need the right kind of education. I Look, if I have the resources, I would never let my child go to a public school.
Me either. My son doesn't go to one.
Yeah, I mean, what they do there, they dampen the spirit of the child. They break children. I'm sorry to say this, but they don't encourage, the nurturing of the talents of the child. They want to fix children in these little boxes, you know, and it doesn't work that way. So education is the foundation, and we need to. I hope that this will help us to. I know these discussions have been going on, but we need to have more of the discussions about the right kind of education.
Yes.
And if we have the right kind of education, nobody in the world can control us. Nobody. You see, and so I'm glad we are having this discussion, because the educational system that Africa has right now is not Pan-African,
It's not.
and that needs to change. Those of us who are talking about Africa right now and how we need to rise up, we did the work ourselves. We I became an owl. I used to tell you I'm an owl. I don't sleep at night. I read all night.
Mm.
You see, unless sometimes I read till the next day and I get up and I do what I need to do. I can spend 2 days without closing my eyes. You see, and we need to have our own school system. So within all of this confusion, what the African community and the Jews do this. The Jews do this. They send their children to their own educational
Exactly.
centers and teach them the Jewish way. So I was talking about oppression, right? Why is it that our oppression has not stopped today? The enslaver who was doing it 400 years ago is dead, right?
I would say that it's like a catch-22. That individual might be dead, but the spirit lives in many other people today.
Yeah, but I wanted to come to the point where he's dead and is alive today because he taught his children to continue it.
Exactly. That's what I meant. His spirit.
And that's, yeah, they taught their descendants to continue oppressing us in a different way,
Right.
but it's still oppression.
Right.
So some people are teaching their children to continue to benefit from us and oppress us, and we're not teaching our children how to rise up. That's what I was trying to get to. Because if we had said that the slave trader is no more and all of that, then the oppression and the bias should have died with them, right? But it's not dead. It means that somebody is teaching and encouraging that behavior to continue.
Yes.
Right? So Yeah, so we need to learn from that and say this is never going to end.
Absolutely.
The Chinese teach their children the Chinese way.
Hmm.
The Japanese teach their children the Japanese way. The Europeans teach their children the European way. Why is it that the Africans are not teaching the children the African way? We are not saying that by not going to a public school you can't learn chemistry and mathematics and physics. You can learn all of them. African, you see. So we need an education, and I hope that we have the Du Bois Center in Ghana. I hope
Okay.
you're aware of this.
Hey, but
It's
let me ask you a quick question real quick. You mentioned the Boys Center in Ghana. Are you familiar with
mhm.
Dr. Cabone at the University of Ghana?
Dr.
Cabone.
Cabone.
You're not?
Camo. I'm
It's
not. I'm
C-
not
it,
familiar.
okay. All right, that's
I'm
fine.
not.
Continue. I just wanted to say that, but continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. But we have that center, and that center should serve as a center of learning. I would prefer that that center be converted. It should be a center of learning for African children, at least in Ghana. You see, and children should be encouraged to go there, and we should have satellite campuses or replicas of those centers across Ghana.
Hmm.
For instance, in every single community, we need to teach the African children about themselves. Kind of education we need. It is useless to teach a child about anybody else other than himself or his ancestors. And right now, we're teaching our children about other people.
Yes.
We're not teaching them about ourselves.
Let me
So
ask
we.
you, let me
Mhm,
ask you this, Winnie. At one time,
mhm,
Timbuktu,
mhm,
I would say, was the center for
mhm,
knowledge and education for this entire planet.
mhm.
Okay, how do we get back to building institutions like Timbuktu?
Yeah, basically, I think that the African mind is a very dynamic mind. It's a very brilliant mind, you see. And some people have fought day and night to water it down and suppress it. So what we need to do is to free the African mind. And how we can do this is to have institutions of learning where African children go. Look, I need to tell you this. I was terrified going to school as a primary school student, as a child, because you know they would give you the whip, man. They would lash you at the slightest thing. Where is that coming from? Why are our children afraid of schools? Why are our children afraid of mathematics? It's not. It's all over the world, right? So we need to bring back the master teachers of Timbuktu. These are
Mm.
teachers that at the end of their teaching days, they will go around Mali and give their service for free. They would want people to bring them problems that they can solve for them.
Uh-huh.
And this is not only in Mali, it started in Egypt. The master teachers, we started the educational system. I have hieroglyphic mathematics that we were teaching. We are the beginning, and we can be the end. And we need to go back to that. And how we can go back to that is to come back to the Pan African teachings.
Right.
And we need to wipe out all of the pollution that has been put in the minds of our children.
Hmm.
I wish when I don't have a child yet, but when I do, I won't let anybody teach them anything that I don't approve of.
Right.
I want to know what you're teaching my child. It's so ironic. We let our oppressors teach our children, and we wonder why our children end up the way they are. You see? So we need to move away from that, and we need to awaken our African minds. And how we can do that is to deprive our children from outside influence. We need to send them back to the Pan African teachings. Some of the Pan African look, of the seven liberal arts,
I
Have you
don't.
heard of the
I don't.
seven?
I don't. I'm
Now,
not.
now the seven liberal arts were taught in Egypt. The seven liberal into two. You have the trivium.
Hmm.
The trivium deals with three subjects. You see, rhetoric, grammar, and logic, or let me say, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. This is how the human mind works. And it would interest you to note uh, people like you heard of Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop,
Yeah, of course. He's from Senegal.
Senegal,
Yeah,
right?
I've been
Dr.
to
Sheikh,
his university. He has a university in Dakar. I've been on campus before.
yeah, but you know, Sheikh Anta Diop didn't achieve what he wanted, right? Uh, but but I want to point out that Sheikh Anta Diop, before he went to formal school, he studied the seven liberal arts
Hmm.
under the Islamic teachings. Because you see, one thing people don't appreciate, the Moridi sect, they learn like the Israelis. They have they go through the Kabbalah.
Okay. Oh,
Sheikh, the
whoa.
Kabbalah.
Say it again. You're saying the Murids that
Yeah,
Sheikh Abdul
they
Baba.
yeah, they have the same system as the Jews of today. You see, so they have the Kabbalah. And Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop writes about this in his book, Pre-Colonial Black Africa.
Hmm.
You see, and you need to get that. And so he, you see, these teachings, they open up the mind. It's a big tool that we need to open up. If you take, I want you to, and some of your people listening,
Hmm.
research the seven liberal arts. Seven liberal, Liberal.
Okay.
Seven liberal
I'm gonna do
arts.
that right now. I'm about to.
Now, yeah, all children or grown people, first thing they need is that it's broken into two: the trivium, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. This is the order. This is how the mind works. This is how the Egyptians taught. This system comes from Egypt. The Greeks came to Egypt and learned the same way. And we need to go back. And that is why we need to come back to the philosophical question of what society do we want to build so that it will engender or bring forth the question of what sort of education do we need to achieve what we want to achieve. And once we do that, we will have access to the right information. The information is there. It's not in the public space, but it's there. I I I I, I would like my children to learn the seven liberal arts. I would take them to a Moridi school system before they even go to a public school system or learn at home. Because
Hmm.
what that training does, it trains the mind to function the way God made it to function.
Okay.
You see? So we need to go back to that. We need to begin a search. Like you, that's why I'm interested in the Dogon. You went to Dogon country.
Yeah.
We need to, I learned about the Dogon from a European, Dr. Marcel Grau, who is a French anthropologist. You see, I was reading a book about that. He wrote a book about the Dogon called The Pale Fox, which
Yes.
come from the pale fox divination. The Dogon have a divination system called the pale fox. We need to have a group of researchers to scout all over Africa and bring together all the African knowledge. There's knowledge in Africa, but the knowledge in Africa is not, we don't make it available to everybody. And this is why some people come to Africa and they say, we never had an education. We always did. But it was the motivation was not like what we after the industrial revolution, where there was a high demand for skilled labor. That knowledge was for people who wanted the knowledge, and they got it. I can tell you, I live in the northern region right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this. I can go and sit and speak the language. I can go and sit down with elderly people. They speak the same language, and I
Okay.
wouldn't understand a word they're speaking because they're speaking a higher language. That you hear about a bunch of gibberish. They're speaking the words you know, but it doesn't make sense when you. It sounds so stupid. It's a secret language. Our people had codes. They kept certain things secret. They're sacred for reasons. Our researchers.
Well, and not to cut you off. So in Mali, you have the griots, because I mean, back everything was done orally for the most part, from what I understand, back
Yeah,
in ancient
yeah.
times, and not written. You know, that's why you had the griots in Mali. But
We
continue.
we had writing systems. We had look, the Dogon have a writing system.
Mm-hmm.
They keep it a secret. They have a right. The Dogon have a writing system. I have access to this. I've seen the alphabets, and they developed this on their own. But basically, the griots, and you see, let me give you an idea. The Mali culture is like the northern Ghanaian culture. We also have that. My family is a family of griots. We are the keepers of history.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and so it brings us back to the concept of Freemasonry and the craft. Some families were in charge of certain things, divided in the community. You go to a typical African community, one family is a blacksmith family, and they stay like that. The family is in charge of, working with metal, and they manufacture all the things, metal that is needed in the community. Other families are, are the intellectuals, and that's how it goes. There are crossovers, but just the concept of that we divided labor or the various things that the community needed to survive, we split it among ourselves. You see, and this is what guided our system. And so we need, and it goes back to education. We need an elite association,
Mm.
people worldwide. And when I say Africa, I'm even talking about the Africans in Asia. We don't talk about them much. Look, the Africans in West Papua, they share a border with Indonesia. The Indonesians are slaughtering our African brothers and sisters, and we don't talk about it.
In Burma, you're talking about in Burma, correct?
Not Burma. I'm talking about West Papua
Okay, right. Yes, yes. West Papua. Yes, yes.
with with Indonesia. They want to have the place, and this tells us that our African people were all over the world. Our people are in Australia. Our people are in the Pacific, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, Andaman, Adams Island, all of these islands. How come there are black people there? So we need an elite association that is well funded, a research association that is well funded to bring together all the knowledge is scattered, to bring together all the knowledge and to see how we can put it together in a coherent manner to teach our children to help us liberate ourselves. And that's why I keep going back to the $1 project. How are we going to
Everybody
get
put
the
in a
money?
dollar.
Yeah, why not? It's so easy. Why are we not doing this?
Well, Louis Farrakhan has something similar as well.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no, no. Look. I don't want to go into Louis Farrakhan and all. You see, our leaders, they seem to have their own agenda. How long has Louis Farrakhan been around?
for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, we as African people, I'm not saying he's bad and all of that, but We need to do this among the ordinary people. You see? And I say ordinary in the sense that people like you and I,
Yes.
we don't need any so-called big people and leaders we are afraid to approach. And no. We need to do this for ourselves. So if Louis Farrakhan is doing it in the nation of Islam, that's good. We should contribute to that. But we need to do it for ourselves, for a different purpose. And we can do it. There's nothing stopping us from doing this. And even in Africa, myself and I'm getting in touch with so many groups in within the African continent. We're getting something together, and we're going to launch this across the African continent, and we're going to keep pushing this, and nothing is going to stop us from doing this. You see, and once we have that money, we can begin to invest in some of the important things. Look, we could have afforded to invest in a pan-African education. So I support what Dr. Umar Johnson is trying to do.
Me too.
You see, and we need that. So if you live in Georgia, you need to have one of that, at least one big one in Georgia, or in other places all over America, where you have African people or people of African descent, and you need that all over the world. We're not forcing people to come there, but we take our children there. Whoever doesn't like it, we don't care. You see, we need to stop thinking about other people and think of ourselves. The Jews do it and nobody criticizes them and call them racist. You see, the
Chinese
Jews
do
try
it.
to keep them.
Koreans do it.
The Chinese, they have Chinatowns in the US. We wouldn't dare, the African Americans try to do that. We will be called racist. But nobody's calling the Chinese racist. You see? So what is this? So we need to stop worrying about other people, and we need to turn inward and deal with ourselves. That's the only thing we need right now. And what we need to do is to put together our money. We have all this money scattered around, and we spend it. We spend trillions of dollars
on Jordans, Louis Vuitton bags, Gucci.
Yeah. So what is this? Look, I would be happy if even if not Africans, but African Americans own a telecommunication company in Africa. Why not? Because I know that the money that is made from that investment is going to go to help the Black community. That's what Europeans do. That's what China. Everybody does that except us. Everybody invests money or makes money and turns around to give a chunk of that money to their own people to help them. Why are we not doing that for ourselves? We want the easy way out. We're spending money, on useless things. I'm sorry to say, but useless things that will break. You buy a pair of sneakers and you can't wear them the whole year. You have to go replace them. So I mean, they're not going to last forever. That's what I'm saying. We bring our money together, we can finance our education. And if we finance education, this game is a wrap. It's finished. Nobody can come and tell our people something else, because we know the truth. And we have researchers. Up to now, we don't have an elite. I heard of ASCAC, that Dr. Theophilo Benga, Professor Henry Clark, and others were a part of. But they need the financing. We need to go in places all over the world researching based on our own resources.
Right.
You see, and this information is very important for our liberation. We need to go to Australia. We have people in Australia. They were there before the Europeans got there. Australia was a black continent. It's a continent. It was a black continent. And how come that we are not talking about the Aboriginal Australian robbery right now? So we and we're dealing with the Australians, and the Australians are not dealing with us. If we come together in the world, we will be stronger. You see, and we need to be able to finance our own things. Nobody is going to give us money to liberate ourselves because it takes power away from them. Why would they do that? Why would somebody give you money away from him?
Correct.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So we need to come out of our thinking, and the way to do that is education. And I would encourage everybody in the chat room who has a child or children to try as much as possible, even if your child is in the public school system, give them some Pan-African education. There's a lot of it out there. The history is out there. It'll just instill some level of confidence in them, because I know how it feels to grow up not knowing anything that your ancestors did that was great. See? So, do people have questions in the chat room?
Let's see. Yeah, any questions in the chat room? Let's see here. I think there was one more. I gotta scroll up. Where was that question at? And I was gonna ask you this, and the self-emancipation. He brought this up. Why are
Yeah,
Africans who graduate from law school wearing these blonde wigs still?
yeah, yeah, but it's from Egypt. If you study law,
Mm-hmm.
if you study the history of law, Ma'at is an Egyptian concept where you balance. Yeah, you see the scale, and that's a feather, and the heart of the person. So the British, when they went to Egypt, they saw these. Our judges wore these wigs. These wigs were symbolic, and that's the British got it from there. And so when the British brought it to other parts of Africa, and given that we inherited uh, this system we're running now from the British, we also got it from the British. But ultimately, it traces back to Egypt.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I think, man, bro, we covered a lot, man, and brother Baba, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we got to get your own YouTube page rolling.
yeah. I will work on that, and I hope we can commit and get some on. But most importantly, what I want, and I want to push from the Black community, is we need to start looking for ways to work together,
Absolutely.
and we yeah, and we need to start putting our little dollars together.
Absolutely.
You look, it may not look significant to you, but it's very significant.
Oh, it is.
If we're able to Yeah, if we're able to pull all of this money together, it's huge, and we can make a huge difference. We will have the power we need. I'm telling you this. Despite despite the fact that our people have sold out in Africa, we can still gain a competitive advantage even within the circumstances, and we can eventually turn this around. You see, so the educational system is very, 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 very key. Let me give you an example here.
Go ahead.
We have a subject in the university where I school. We call it Indigenous knowledge, right? And in my mother's village, you see, we had the best bone setters. I don't know if you heard about bone setting. So if you have a fracture,
You said bull setting,
bone setting.
bone setting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you break your arm,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we can set it. Like they set it so well that it's not going to show that you ever broke your arm.
Mm.
And this was so efficient that
Hey,
the
but,
for
but not to cut you off. Did you see my video in Dogon country with the traditional healer?
I saw that video. I saw that video.
Okay. Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and it's similar. Most communities have these things. We're not making use of them. I also know of another community in Ghana called Pandai, which is it's a northern community. Uh, they have this remedy for burns. Like if you have a serious burn,
Mm-hmm.
like hot water pours on your skin, or fire
Mm-hmm.
burns your skin. The cotton. We have a tree here called Kapok. It's a
Mm-hmm.
Kapok tree. We use that. They use that cotton and they mix it with shea butter. Most of us up north here we use shea butter, and I know Doggone Country also has that.
Oh yeah, Mali has.
We
Yeah,
have
Mali. I mean, Mali's like the shea butter capital of the planet.
so we have that. We use that here too, and they mix that together. And look, they apply it on the burn, and it just peels off the skin, and our skin grows, and like nothing will ever show that you have had a burn.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because burns they stay for life. You know that, right?
Right.
I mean, deep burns, big ones. So I used to have this girlfriend who is from that area, and she told me that she had a serious burn on her hand, and they did that, and when she shows it now, I couldn't tell that there was a burn there. You see, so there's all of this like pieces of knowledge and science that we are not pulling together, and it's dying.
Yes.
It's dying. And we need to do that. And to do that, we need a community of researchers, well financed, and they do this work for us. And they bring the knowledge and they bring it forward and see how we can make use of it. You see? So let's work around these areas, but uh, in Africa, we are doing our best now, but uh, let's raise some money uh, and see how we can finance our own education. There's no reason uh, our children should be taught by other people. We should teach our own children the African. So to wrap it up, the question was, what are Africans learning in school? The answer is we're not learning anything.
You're
I'm sorry to say.
right.
Yeah, because if you come out and you're waiting for somebody to give you a job and you know give you a way to live, then you haven't equipped yourself. You're not contributing to your community. You're not independent in thought. Your thought process is not independent. So what have you learned? We are just laboring in the academia and learning all these theories, but we never ever apply them. We never ever even ask. We dare not ask questions about. Uh, there's a Nigerian doctor or professor, Gabriel Oyibo. He's in America, from what I know. I don't know if he's still alive, but I looked him up quite recently, and he propounded the theory of everything, the theorem of everything.
Mm.
You know, and he basically what he said is he solved the problem that Einstein couldn't solve. That is to find the origin of all the forces in the world, and
Right.
therefore he could explain every single thing in the world. You see, and we don't lack the intellectual. We have the brains. We're just wasting them. We're wasting them learning things
Because
from other people.
we'd rather be, unfortunately, we'd rather be entertained. That's the issue.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But let's see what we can do in this time. Let's see the people we can put together. I know that if we organize ourselves and we call on some of these people with the knowledge, African people all over the world, they will come and they will try to guide us as to how to teach certain subjects, you know, and how to nurture our children to learn certain subjects. You see, so once we do this, we're gonna be flying. we're going to be independent, because there's this economic game that the West is playing with Africa right now. It's got to stop. We need top economists to learn everything there is about economics. We have people with the brains to do this, and those brains have to come back and sit down and have series of reasoning or discussions about the way forward for us economically.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and so we have all of these economists who are scattered all around. We need to bring them together with the view of liberating African people all over the world economically. Why not? Other people are doing it. The Chinese people, they liberate themselves and they help themselves. Why can't we do it for ourselves? You see? So basically, that's what I wanted to get out. Is we are not learning what we're supposed to learn in school. I mean,
Yes.
I want to do a master's, but that's why I want to go. I don't want to be a book doctor. It's good to be a book doctor. You can impart knowledge and shape educational systems, but I feel my talent is more. I'm a more practical person.
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm practical, and I like to find solutions to problems, and I brainstorm a lot. So I want to go into maritime management, building ships, managing fleets.
Mm-hmm.
That thing. And African people, we need that. We need to have our own fleet of ships on the ocean. Why not? Why are we the only people who don't have a fleet of ships on the ocean? We're not trading enough. You see? So that's my field of expertise. And I'm also interested in building. I'm more interested in tangible things, the building. I'm building. I have a spiritual aspiration. That's why I was digging the Dogon and so on. But we need to have people to develop their talents and see how they can use those talents to help us and still make a living,
Yes.
because we have to survive, right? So and still make a living from that. So my area of expertise, if people are listening in the chat room, I'm into moving goods around. I'm into building sustainable houses. These are my two main areas that I'm developing, and so I'm looking to develop myself to the highest level in the world. There's no limit for me, and I'm going to strike and go to the very top when it comes to knowledge in this area, and I have the energy and brains to do that, and nobody uh, you know should prevent us from achieving our goals and pushing to learn as much as we can so we can help our community. You see, so that's what I'm doing, and I expect all of us and other people to develop their skill sets that they can bring to the table, and we can have a discussion around several issues. You see, uh-huh. So that's pretty much what I have for now. If there's anything else, we could address it then.
No, I think that's it, man. I mean, you covered a lot, and I mean, people in the chat room are absolutely. I mean, they love you. In fact, a lot of people have been asking for your contact information. I put it in the chat room, but go ahead and share it with people as well.
Yeah, I realize some people don't have Facebook, so I'm gonna give my number out. Uh, I'm based in Ghana, and this is my home. Africa is my home, and so my phone number is +233 uh 2489. Oh, sorry, 9831251. That's +233 9831251. You can send me a message on WhatsApp or Viber, or reach out to me whichever way you can. We can take it from there. But on Facebook, my ID is Awini Baba, one word. Awini is Awini, and Baba is Baba, one word.
Brother, one more time. Your phone number is +233 983 1251.
No, it's +233
Mm-hmm.
249 83 1251.
Got it. Okay, I just put it in the chat room.
So we need to be discussing more of this. And look, there's a lot of knowledge in Africa, you see, and we need to preserve the knowledge. It's dying. It's dying, and we can do this if we have a comprehensive educational system that records and keeps it. We keep it among a few trusted people as our educational secret, if you will, because every group of people have their educational secret. They don't give it to us. We need to keep our own. And so I hope when you come November, right?
I'll be there in November. I land in Accra November 24th, and I leave on December 4th.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So when you're around, definitely we'll link up and to do together. So I pray that the chat crew members link up with you and continue to work with you, because
well, they're going to be reaching out to you as well.
Yeah, I hope so. But I just wanted to commend Brother Dinas Damir and what you've been doing, because honestly speaking, I haven't seen a single African American. Before I discovered you, I haven't seen a single African American come to Africa and take such interest in going to the communities. That's the heart of Africa, to discover Africa, to bring that out to the African American and the African community in Africa. It's powerful, and it just shows that there is so much we should be doing, and that we're not doing, and we need to continue in this spirit. We need to do our own homework. We need to stop depending on others to educate us and give us information. We need to do our own.
Yes, brother. And I thank you for coming on. I would say that in closing, is there anything else you want to share before we close out?
I just want to thank Adi for being part of the chat and being on and taking an interest in African development worldwide. The future is very bright for Africa, and we all need to be a part of it.
Amen.
Because we are one people. Whether we are in America, in Asia, India, where we are called the Dalits or untouchables, or wherever, or in Africa, we are one people, and we face the same core problem, but it manifests in different ways. You see, but when we tackle the core problem, all of the effects of that core problem that we are seeing will go away. So we should not give up. We should continue to work and collaborate. This collaboration has been going on since before our independence. Like I said, there's a reason why W.E.B. Du Bois denounced his American citizenship, because of the hell he was going through back then to become a Ghanaian, and he died here. There's a reason for that. And all of these other people that came from the Caribbean, Bedema, and all of them. So we need to continue that collaboration between Africa and our people in the diaspora all over the world. And we need to find a middle ground where we can communicate like what we're doing right now, and how we can help ourselves. So that's,
Hey, brother, real quick, what last question. What part of Ghana are you in again? Somebody asked in the chat room.
yeah, I'm in Tamale. Tamale.
Okay, got it. Got it.
That's in the northern region.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
brother. Well, I appreciate it. Once again, search for Uhuru. Make sure if you guys are on Instagram, make sure you go to my Instagram page, search for Uhuru, and please follow me. You know, I launched Africa Personified, which is my my coffee table book, but I'm making it available on Instagram. But I'm still going to do the book. So please go on Instagram, search for Uhuru, follow me, and like the pics. Also, go do search for Uhuru on Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. Make sure you go to search for Uhuru.com, and make sure you go to Amazon.com, search your name, Dynasty Mirror, buy a book. Please support and buy one. Dynasty Mirror, search for Uhuru, the Kafadan Don. Till next time, peace.